Hello and welcome back to the Paddle and Fin podcast. I'm Brian,
And I'm Jay.
and we're your host. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everybody got out on the water this past weekend, like me and Mr. Randall. So
Yeah.
tonight, guys, we're going to do a little recap of our first tournament. I guess we'll start out with me. I was heading down Thursday to pre-fish for St. Chris, and the KBL group chat started going off with concerns about the weather and possibly rescheduling the tournament, which, we had all kind of been watching the weather forecast building up to that, and I kind of had a feeling. And then when they started talking Thursday, I immediately texted you and I was like, what campground are you staying at?
Yeah.
And because I had signed up for Banner, the Great Lakes Kayak Fishing Series tournament that you were planning on fishing the night prior, because I had a feeling, man, like, the first KBL tournament wasn't going to happen because of the weather. They were predicting like 20 plus mile an hour winds straight out of the north, which is going a long way down the lake. And we were launching out of the south, so it would have been straight paddling into that. And not only that, but air temps were supposed to be in like high 30s, low 40s, rain snow mix
Splendid.
all day. So, yeah, it was. I want to give a shout out to Alan and the crew there over at KBL. That was, in my opinion, a great move. Just because, like, I posted a YouTube video of my kind of tournament recap Sunday, and for the guys like myself paddling, I mean, that could have got pretty hairy pretty quick. Even guys in pedal drives. So yeah, it was a good call on their part. But I texted you and I was like, "Where's the campground? I'm going there." And so I headed down Thursday. I got to the campground first, dropped the trailer, loaded up my boat, and went over to Banner. I got 4 hours of pre-fishing in. And then, I texted you guys. I didn't catch a single fish. And I threw a ton of stuff, scouted some areas. Granted, I didn't go well, I did go as far as we did on tournament day. But I didn't hit a bunch of spots that we had fished. But, and then, you know, stayed the night in the camper, or I'm sorry, mobile HQ.
Mobile HQ.
And I was going to meet you guys over at the Banner launch Friday morning. And I didn't tell you this, but I kind of slept in. I was like, whatever, Jay, we'll wait.
Yeah. And it did. And they did.
Yeah,
But with
well,
good reason.
yeah. So I know I called you when I was leaving the campground. You're like, dude, like, not looking good. So, I mean, what did it look like when you guys showed up?
Well, it was whitecaps all across the water. And every now and then you would get a gust that would like help your leg move by itself. So, I mean, there was like 45-mile-an-hour gusts coming in here and there. It would have been brutal because it seemed like everything was pretty much, I mean, the wind was changing direction as we saw the next day, but the
Yeah.
wind was changing direction like every 15 minutes. I don't know what it is about that area, but like there, maybe it's just because there's so much flats, out there with the water and everything. Something's going on, maybe a thermal, I don't know, but it gets really raunchy there when it gets windy. It's bad.
Yeah, I know Thursday when I was there, it it was kind of switching directions on me. Like that main channel was flat calm, but once you got out into the open areas, it was coming across the lake. And it wasn't horrible because I paddled way to the back and I made it, but come tournament day, it was swirling. It was changing every different
Yep.
direction. Like you'd plan for it to be blowing the way it was blowing, and then next thing you know, it's blowing you the opposite way. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was kind of crazy, but yeah. So you told me just just stay there. And I was like, well, it's like, are you serious? Because I seriously thought you guys were messing with me. Because when I was at the campground, like, it wasn't that bad. Like, there was a breeze, but they're at that campground, what was it, Fulton County Camping and
Yeah.
Recreational Area.
Yep.
And they had a bunch of little lakes there, but it was all kind of like in valleys.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like,
Definitely.
well, if that's the case, why don't we all just fish here? That way we can fish. I mean, we're there. What are we going to do? Sit around and twiddle our thumbs all day? And we got to fish, and then that wind kicked up, in the afternoon.
Yeah,
Uh,
that sucked. We all ended up in that one spot. Like it just pushed us all
yeah,
the way down there.
yeah, there
We're all
was,
just like, I'm just gonna fish over here for a minute
yeah,
because there's no wind.
yeah, there was four of us out there fishing, and then, you know, you were pedaling. Brian Butters was stair stepping out of his Hobie,
That's right.
and then Glenn Miller had his stair stepper, and then he also had his Torpedo. So once the wind kicked up, he was just like, "Haha, see you fellas."
I know, man. He took off. I was like, I thought he was pedaling. Like, God, you're pedaling. Oh, it's the motor. It's stupid motor. I was like, whatever.
Here I am in the back struggling, but it was cool. We caught some fish. I think you caught the biggest that day, right?
I did.
Like 16 and a half or something.
I don't want to brag, but I'm gonna.
Well,
So it's
I
it's rare.
yeah, I called it before I left. I'm like, I'm gonna catch a bag of 8-inch fish, and I definitely did.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I got like a 16 and a half, and the other one was a 16. And then I caught like a little sardine.
Yeah,
I mean, we only fished like 3 hours.
yeah, something like that.
You
Something like
know,
that. It was
it
fun.
was it was nice to finally slam the boat.
Yeah. Well,
The yak hadn't seen a bass in there yet.
yeah, I was gonna say that was your first bass of the year, right?
Yeah, I was pretty ecstatic.
Yeah.
I was like, well, let's just at least catch one.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I was like,
Remember what it
'cause-
feels like.
oh my God, dude. It's funny. You have to like remember all that. It's
Right.
because you're like anticipating the bite and you're
Yeah.
like, and I was like, sure enough, man, felt like it's like riding a bike.
And you caught your first fish on a Spro flat-sided crank, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like a chartreuse one.
Yeah.
Yep. Because that water was really muddy.
Yeah.
It was just dark stained.
Yeah.
I was like, well, throw a chartreuse, see what happens. And I just started working kind of like off the banks, not so much. I wasn't really casting to the bank, but I would say probably about 5 to 10 feet off,
Right.
and then digging hard and then slowing it down.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the first one came on that, and then the second one as well.
Nice.
You know,
Yeah, I caught mine on one was on a drop shot with like a chartreuse and black robo worm, and then caught my other ones on a 3.5-inch Kitech that was blue and chartreuse.
yeah,
So it was kind of cool. But and that's one of the techniques I'm working on is just throwing more swim baits this season. So then we got off the water, went back to camp, and we were all just kind of sitting around tying up and things like that. And that was one of the things I rigged up. No gas at the tournament. But I don't know if you knew this, but you may have been standing there when Glenn Miller and I were talking about it. But we were talking about chatterbaits. And because I think he caught a 16 or something on a chatterbait off lumber on that lake. And he was talking about how he's been throwing the jackhammers. And I'm like, man, I've seen pictures of those. I don't know if I have any. Everybody's been ranting and raving about them. So he showed me one. And I was like, well, I've been throwing these Picasso chatterbaits. He's like, I never heard of those. And I'm like, dude, Picasso's kind of... I know a lot of guys on the West Coast throw them. I know Ron Champion is on their team.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard about them last year, and I started throwing them last year. And the thing I like about them is that blade swivels back and forth over that head, and it actually ticks the lead head to the point where over some use, it like puts a little indentation in that lead head from that blade beaten in there. And I'm like, it puts off a large thud. And Glenn's like, well, I'll trade you. I'll give you a jackhammer. You give me a Picasso. And he's like, what's this, $3 chatterbait? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, they're like $7 or $8. And he's like, all right, well, it's a fair trade then, you know. So he tied that up, and you know, I'll get into that in a little bit, but you know, we got all rigged up, had dinner, had some laughs, and then we went to bed later that evening, and I didn't really get much sleep. I don't know about you. I know you were up
like a baby.
Yeah. Oh, well, you were snoring. That was part of the reason why I couldn't sleep. But yeah, no, I got you know, I was just going over my game plan because I'm like, man, I haven't even caught a fish on this lake. I've only seen a fraction of it, and I'm like, I don't know, with this cold front blowing in, all the wind churning up the water the night before or the day before. Like, I had no clue, man. It was like unfamiliar territory for me. And, you know, we all kind of talked about kind of what our plan was. And I know Glenn and I had a similar game plan, but we got up at like 3:45 in the morning, drank some coffee, packed up, headed to the ramp. I know we got to the ramp, it was like 10-15 minutes before 5 a.m. And all geared up, and we were allowed to get in the water at 5:30, and then lines in at 6. And yeah, Glenn and I had talked about fishing that. There was like a ledge with a bunch of like tall reeds, grass area right by the launch, and I had marked some fish there Thursday, and I was like, I'm going to start there first thing in the morning, I think, because I had a fish blow up on a black spinner bait when I was fishing. Didn't hook it. All I saw was a green flash, and that was the only action I got out of the 4 hours I fished. So that's kind of why I went straight there. I figured those fish would be staging up on that ledge, and you know, you guys said that wind was blowing kind of that direction the day before, so I figured there'd be some bait there, balls of shad, and a number of things. And I started there. I didn't stay there very long, but then I kind of headed the direction you guys went. I mean, what was your initial plan? I know you kind of told me, and how'd that all go?
Well, you know me, Mr. Power Fisherman. So I wanted to at least see if I could get away with that. And I mean, I threw the crank first. So me and Brian went down the canal, or the channel rather, that leads into the big lake, the main part of the lake. Brian Butters, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Let's
Mr.
clarify.
Butters. But yeah, so me and Butters were working both sides. You know, so I threw a lot of the crank. I threw a lot of my white chartreuse crankbait with a 3.5-inch trailer. It was the Krabby Bass Sonic Junior, the Sonic Shed. But yeah, so anyway, I'm throwing that. What else did I throw? I even tried throwing like a shaky head on some rocky points that were in the area. Kind of threw everything on the boat. Well, everything tied up.
Yeah.
And alternated back and forth, just kind of seeing, you know, what would work. Butters ended up hooking up on the side. I think he was on a chatter, and he ended up with like a 14 or 14 and a half.
Yeah.
And then we went down further. I mean, we were marking fish. There were tons and tons
Yeah.
of stuff. I mean, underneath this. I mean, I was even thrown in the middle of the channel. I was like,
Yep.
well, let's just see if this works, you know? So I'm like, I even threw on a deeper crank, just trying to get a little deeper, through like balls of shad. I mean, I was seeing on mine with the side imaging, you know, you get dots. So usually when it's like light dots, it's like crappie or bluegill or shad, you know?
Right.
When you get darker dots, it's usually a bass. Especially the way you would see them moving. Like I would literally see like a lighter dot school go by, and then some darker dots, you know, chasing them. But I mean, I don't know what that was. I mean, it could have been bass, maybe it wasn't. But it was just brutal for
Yeah.
a while. I couldn't buy a bite.
Yeah.
for like 3 or 4 hours. I mean, it was grueling, but I just kept throwing the same stuff over and over, trying different, techniques, just slowing it down, throwing the swing jig. I burned that like a crankbait first. Then I started, trying to run it through weeds, and I started banging it in and stuff. I wasn't getting anything.
Right.
It was rough. The water was like 51. There were some top water blowups going on. I mean, so that there's some kind of a bite happening.
Some kind of activity, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then I ended up swinging around the back, and Butters like cruised off, did his own thing, and I lost him. So then I just started, trying to figure stuff out. Ran into Don Thompson, and he kind of broke my heart. like, like, we're only like an hour and a half in, and he comes by, and I'm like, "How you doing?" I was like, "Did you get any?" And he's like, puts up his hands. He's like,
4.
I was like, 4? He's like, "Yeah, I got them all in the first hour." I'm like,
Come
"Oh
on.
my God." I was like, Don is so hard to fish against. I mean, he's so good, but man, dude, I was like 4 already. So that really makes you think how good of a fisherman you are.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know. I just kept slinging a lot of the same stuff I had on there just to give it a chance.
Sure.
And then I started switching stuff up.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, I started off that point. I threw that Kitech swim bait. I threw my chartreuse and white chatterbait with Z-Man swim bait on it. I threw the drop shot in the first hour. I threw, I don't even know, I threw a crankbait for a while, a Spro flat-sided crankbait, which I got to get back to you. But, yeah, I did the same thing because I had a bunch of stuff tied up, and, going back to that chatterbait I gave Glenn, like, first hour and a half, we were separated. I ended up being on my own and was kind of doing my own thing and working the spots that I had thought out the night prior. And I saw that Glenn had like 38 inches. He had a 20 or 38 or 39 inches. He had a 20 and a 19 or a 20 and an 18 and a half. And I'm like, man, I should have followed Glenn. But then as the day progressed, and I was uploading fish, I would go back and check the standings to make sure my fish posted, because I was having a little bit of issues. Like I was worried that my stuff wasn't getting uploaded. And,
didn't it tell you that it was successful when you did it?
Yeah, there was one time where it didn't, so that's why I was like going back and checking it, and I think that was on my first fish. And I would go every time I'd submit, I'd just go check the leaderboard, make sure it, added my inches or whatever. And I saw Glenn was at the same point. Well, the end of the day, after the tournament, we're talking to him, and he's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "I didn't want to tell you, but like, I thought for sure my 5 fish were coming on that chatterbait you gave me." He's like, "I caught those first 2 in the morning on that exact chatterbait you gave me, and then he had some kind of backlash and the line snapped and he lost a chatterbait. Didn't have a fish the rest of the day." So he's like, "Yeah, I was kind of worried about having to tell you that at the end of the day." Like that was his thought in the morning. Like, I'm going to get 5 good fish on this chatterbait I got from Brian. And, he's going to be livid because he saw that I had nothing. And, but, I was kind of working these areas, and, I'm like, well, they're not out deep on these edges. And, I think we had talked, and, we were kind of going back to an area where you had caught some fish previously last year or something. And, you were kind of rolling my way, and the other thing I had tied up the night before was a weightless Texas rig Senko, and it was a 5-inch Senko in a goby color, and I put that goby on because I've had a lot of success with that here on my home lake, other bodies of water. But the reason why I put that on, it's a lighter color, and the water was kind of clear in some areas until the wind picked up. So I'm like, natural color presentation, like this should work. Like, and my thought too was a slower presentation after the cold front had blown in, and this should put a 10-inch fish at least in my boat, so I have something. And that wasn't working. And then when you were kind of heading my direction, I changed up. I had bought some black and blue Senkos before I left town, just because I know black and blue was a color that was really on down at St. Chris. So I bought those because I knew, same thing, that it was going to be cold on Sunday, windy, all that stuff. So I figured, hey, black and blue Senko, slow presentation should work. And I got maybe 6 casts out. And that was the other thing too, that black and blue Senko I was tossing was 4-inch. And I actually put together a video that'll go up on Friday's upload on like my whole, how I rigged it, how I was casting it, the spots and stuff I was looking for. But I had caught a fish, a nice healthy 16-incher. I mean, she was fat, kind of like the one you had caught the day before at the campground. And you came rolling by, and I was like, hey man, black and blue Senko did the trick. And you were like, oh, okay, cool. And then you kept throwing that crankbait, bro.
I'm a knucklehead. I mean,
but see, even with that being said, so I know when we talked to a lot of people after the tournament, a lot of guys caught fish on chatterbaits. And your first fish came on that Spro flat-sided crankbait. And
but hours later, I was already throwing a chatterbait, the white one, not getting anything.
Yeah,
it seemed like the dark colors in anything, like in any bait, that was the way to go.
Yeah, I know. Like springtime, it's weird, man. It's either like those red colors, or darker, like that black blue. Because that's at St. Chris. I was throwing that black and blue jig with black blue crayfish plastic on the back, and that killed them. But I also tried down there a kind of like a green pumpkin orange red mix with a orange and brown crayfish trailer on it. Not a thing, not a single swipe. So I don't know. I think color was definitely key as far as the Senko went. But and what color crank were you throwing?
Well, it was still the chartreuse.
Chartreuse and white.
Yeah, it was mostly chartreuse. So I went back where I had caught my personal best the year before out there, which was a 22.5. And I was like, well, I know there's fish back here because they stage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a 30-foot hole, and then there's, there's like a plateau. Excuse me. Excuse me. There's like a plateau of sorts, and then a slow, gradual incline. And I was like, all right. So I was like, I knew if I worked that area, like I'd probably get lucky, and I did.
Sure.
If there's any area, that whole lake, I was like, I got to catch a fish. It's got to be right there.
Yeah.
And it was almost in the exact same spot, but different type of situation. But yeah, I was just kind of slow rolling I would kind of crank the Spro down like really fast and then just slow it, just bring it through, just feeling every thump, like, just every, oscillation and everything. And it was pretty cool. That one hit pretty close to the boat. And after that, I still tried throwing it and didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, in retrospect, I really wish I would have went to the Texas rig Senko like I did later at that moment, because I think I could have made at least another one happen.
Sure.
Because I missed another one on the crank there.
Okay.
That was another thing. I got another fish on there, but then lost it, but it was away from the boat.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I was getting some action. It's just that I think it was just too fast. the cranks. Like even though people were throwing chatters,
Yeah.
there was something about the chatterbait versus a crankbait that was bringing them in, and it wasn't this guy. So
Well, I know from conversations that were had back at the launch, um, it was a light bite on those moving baits.
I bet.
We were talking to Dusty Yacker, and he said he lost like 4 fish, and he was swimming a jig along the grass, and he just didn't have good hook sets or something, and and I think even the guys that caught him on chatterbaits, it wasn't like they were pounding that chatter as they were rolling them through. It was a soft bite, whereas all my Senko bites were solid, with the exception of one.
Well, and here's the thing: that crankbait, dude, that 17 and a half engulfed that thing.
Did he? Okay.
Like I had to throw the long pliers in its mouth because, I mean, it was buried. I mean, it got the whole thing.
Interesting.
That was an aggressive hit. It was definitely an aggressive hit.
Well, and that was also a deeper fish. So I think
True.
the fish up shallower may have been a little bit more softer, softer hits compared to like those deeper fish were more aggressive, it seems like. So that would make sense. But yeah, I know I saw you because I was fishing a point coming back into the area that you were back fishing in that hole, and I could kind of see from a distance. I'm like, I think Jay's over there taking a picture. It looks like he's like kind of leaning over his bump board and this and that. And I
would try to be careful. Sorry, I would try to be careful not flash the board everywhere.
Well, right.
Like I got a fish, everybody, come over here.
Yeah. Well, and I get that too. And there's even one point in the video I posted Sunday where like, we'll get to that in a second. But when I was coming back towards that area where you were, I caught a 17 and a quarter off the point there, coming back there, and I was like, dude, did you get a fish? Like, it looked like you were taking a picture. He was like, oh, you were like, oh yeah, 17, man, yeah, you were like. But I know how that felt because I think when I caught my first fish, it was like 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and I was like, oh, thank God. Yep. Like, finally, I found something, Yep. And then I caught that second one, and then we fished that area back in there for a bit, and then we kind of headed towards the back. And, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're getting to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing pretty good over there. I was by myself. I'm like, I hit, like, I got one right off the point. I got another one not too much farther down there.
Yeah.
And then you came cruising along, and I was just hooking into my fourth fish, and I lost it.
No, I was getting in mine, the one that I lost.
Oh, you're talking about yours.
Yeah,
mine mixed up. Sorry.
We headed towards the back by that back channel.
Yes,
and
that's right. We'll go to that other one.
And that was kind of a point there. But the way the shoreline was cut, where this grass was that I was fishing, was kind of pushed back. So the water wasn't dirty. It was this grass kind of out of the wind, but there was like a wind current going past there. And I tossed my Senko in there, man, and I saw the line running, and I just didn't get a good hook set. And I knew I didn't get a good hook set. And I started reeling this fish in, man, and it was a beast. Because you were kind of behind me, and I was like, oh, my God, Jay. Oh, my God. This thing's a monster. And I reached down to grab for my net as the fish was running towards the back of my boat, and then my line went slack. And I was just like, no. And I like sunk down in my chair, dropped my head, and I was just besides myself. And you were like, yep, that's kayak fishing, dude.
Yep. I didn't know what else to say.
Yeah. I was like, dude, that was a monster fish. I think that would have been my PB out of a kayak. I mean, it was 20 plus.
That place has fish, man. It's got big fish.
I mean, I saw the side of it. I saw the tail especially, and that tail was huge. and it was a big female. And if I had a guess, it was probably a 6-pound fish. You know, I mean, it was just monstrous. And you were like, "It is what it is, man. Just got to keep going."
Yeah.
And I kind of sat there for a minute, and I was like, "Yeah, go shove your keep going crap up your you know what." And then I'm like, you know what, Jay's right. Like, you know, if I keep sitting here and not fishing, like, what's that going to do for me, you know? And I was like, you know, told myself mentally, I'm like, I can't let this bother me, and I just got to keep going. And we fished that back channel, and then we kind of moved up where we caught some fish along the grass and stuff. And I think you had, at that point, changed up to a Senko. And we got separated for a bit because I kind of got turned around, and I thought I was heading towards the main entrance to get back to the main channel to go back to the launch, but I wasn't even close. But I found another spot, and I ended up catching a 17 and a half. And that I got on the GoPro, and like after I measured it, I like screamed. I was like, "Woo!"
Yeah,
and I'm like, I thought to myself, like, that's probably dumb because there's probably 10 boats within shouting distance, like, you know. But then, you know, we're winding down. And I told myself we had 2 hours of fish when I caught that one. And I was like, all I need is one fish an hour. One fish an hour and I'm good. You know, if I put up a limit, I'll be up there. And I just couldn't get anything else to go. And then you were working the shoreline in that main, or that channel going to the main channel. And I came up paddling past you, and I saw you hooked into a fish. And, you know, in my normal fashion, I scream out, "Yeah, buddy." And like,
now mind you, I had my net out.
Yeah.
Everything was going down.
Yeah.
The thing is this stupid fish was so feisty that I had to keep leading it because this little thing wanted to jump out of the water. Yeah. I mean, I say little, but it was about a 15, 16, nothing crazy, but yeah, it's a fourth fish, and it's going to put me definitely, you know, in the top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm leading this thing, and then he got that last jump right when you were coming by. The net is out. It's right there by the net, and he just shakes loose. And I was like,
you let out some choice words.
Well, I didn't even make a sentence, I think, on the first one. I was really trying to censor myself, and then all the filters came off.
Yeah.
It was over with. I was just like, you know, I hold myself to a certain standard.
Sure.
And when I can't reach that, you know, when I see, like, every fish is so crucial.
Oh, yeah.
And just 5. All you need is
5
stupid fish. And it's so unbelievable how difficult that can be.
Sure.
Under pressured circumstances that are very undesirable to me. I mean, I don't like fishing, but like under those circumstances, but at the same time, I get it. It's a part of it.
Sure.
But yeah, dude. It's like I blew up, you know, and then we had another guy as an audience who I don't know, you don't know. He didn't know that we knew each other. He thought I was mad at you.
Well, you made a comment. You were like, I was by you, and now you're by me, and we both lost fish. And I was like, yeah, get away from me or something. And like, this guy had no idea, you know, that we knew each other. And, you know, I didn't know about it till tonight, right before we started recording. But that guy came up to you at the launch and was like, hey, man, like, how, you know, what all went down there, man? Like, you know.
Yeah, he was like, I didn't know. He's like, do you guys know each other? I'm like, yeah, I know him. I was like, I know all these guys. I'm like, it's, you know. But it was just kind of funny because he's watching from you know, and then distance. Plus 2, I was like, dude, you're in my spot. You know, you know, I'm like, get out of my spot. Yeah. You know, it's I mean, it was just one of those. You know, I don't know. Even with that blow up, that tantrum.
Yeah.
I felt pretty good anyway because, I mean, this was one tournament, of course, but like I don't know, maybe I just didn't put so much pressure on myself, but it was like. I wasn't so upset. You know, I mean, I was putting fish on the board. You I just wanted to make a good showing and stuff. And
Sure.
like I said, when I'm chasing guys like, Don and Dusty and Tony and, a lot of the other guys, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, I got something to live up to. I want to make sure I can get to these guys and,
Sure.
like I said, every now and then I can surprise somebody, but
Well, and
you know,
that was kind of my thing too, because I put a lot of pressure on myself as well, just because this is my first live kayak fishing tournament, and obviously we do this paddle and fin podcast. I got a reputation to live up to. I'm doing all this crazy stuff. And, my whole big concern was like, man, I didn't catch any fish pre-fishing. If I skunk this tournament, like some eyebrows are going to be flared. You know what I mean? And, and that was one thing too, is like the butterflies got to me for sure in the first hour. Like I was just like anxious. I'm like, I got to find some fish. And I'm like, dude, you need to like breathe, like calm down, breathe, like, because I was like ripping, like, I don't know if I've ever fished a chatterbait that fast as I did that first hour. Like, I'm like, dude, just calm down, slow
yep.
down, like, like take a breather. You're fishing too fast, like think, and when I started to do that, it was like, all right, this is working. Like, I figured it out. And, as the day progressed, I figured more stuff out. And it was just, it was crazy because I put myself, obviously the big thing is you got to have fun when you're out there. Like, you shouldn't be putting that much pressure on yourself, but it's kind of hard not to,
I agree.
But, no matter what the situation, how big the buy-in or the tournament is, like if it's 5 buddies having fun, or 150 person field, you're still putting yourself under pressure in those situations. And that was something I tried to remind myself, like, look, man, just have a good time. Like, what happens, happens. Like, it'll come. It'll come.
If I could, well, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to interject. One thing I did notice is that, which I don't know if it was ironic, I don't know if that's the right word, but when I caught that first fish, I realized that I didn't have a system down to catch fish, because being in the new boat, the whole system of everything, like, so in my Kusa FD, I used to be able to basically create a live well with my net.
Yep.
And on the big rig FD, I was able to do it, but it was more difficult and wasn't as sound. So that was the first thing. The second thing was, I had to get the board, and then, well, not to mention, it just choked down a crankbait.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, like, get that out.
Sure.
And then putting it in the water so it can get some water in the gills, bring it back out and work on it a little more. I just noticed that I was frazzled. I was like, oh my God, I'm going nuts here. Like, everything is everywhere, and I'm not organized, and that's from being a year out and not doing the online stuff.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about how crucial that would be at that moment.
Sure.
Because I'm like, dude, do not lose this fish. Do not lose this fish. I was like, you will be destroyed for the rest of the day. I was like, we're going home if I lose this fish. I was like, I'm not staying. I'm going home. I was like, I just kept dreaming about my bed, like the way, the whole week's been. And I'm just going to go home. I need my bed. And, so I guess like the moral, or so to speak, or the learning experiences, get out when you're out there and you're doing these tournaments, or like before you do the tournaments, if you're planning to do it, go practice with the bump board, practice taking pictures, practice doing all that stuff, because there is a system that you need to put in place that you need to kind of get used to on your own boat, so you can be efficient at it and then keep the fish alive, all that stuff. But that being said, after that first one, I pretty much had it again. I was like, okay, we're good, we're
Yeah.
good. I was like, I know where everything is.
Yep.
Like, all right, everything's in, reaching distance. I mean, I'm not gonna say it was foolproof.
Yeah.
There were still some interesting moments, but I was working through it, and it's like I said, it's a year out of the tournament circuit. You kind of forget with a new boat, like how everything is going to affect you, where stuff is. Um, that was an interesting part too. It's just that.
Well, and to that point, so the system Jay is talking about out of his Kusa, you actually did a walkthrough on that on one of the Paddle and Fin YouTube videos. It's on the Fish in the Bass and Gill Club with Jay Randall video. That was obviously before you were co-host of this fine podcast. But when you showed that to me last fall, I was like, oh, that's kind of genius. And I made mental note of it for coming into this season. And I got to practice and kind of figure out my system, so to speak, from pre-fishing St. Chris for the March monthly KBF tournament, online tournament. And I lost a 15.5-inch fish last month. That would have definitely helped me. But I'm glad I did it in the monthly than in a live tournament, because I had time to make up for that loss. I had a fish flop off the board, and that was just me figuring out my system. So to that respect, yes, like, figure out your system before you get in that live situation. Yeah. And I kind of do that kind of like live well thing with the net now, because I got that big hoop Yak Attack fold away net. So I put it perpendicular to me hanging over the side of the boat. Fish stays in there and that was the thing too, is when I caught fish in the tournament, like if I had an extra rod on my deck, I would let that fish chill there. I'd clear the rods off my deck. I get everything off the floor, out of the way, get my bump board out, and everything like that. So, I don't know if we talked about this, but that I think it was my second fish that I caught. You always get like an email saying like your fish has been accepted by Tourney X, and I never got an email from that second fish. When I posted my third fish, I got one, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. Maybe it just came through together or something like that, because obviously, there's multiple fish coming in or whatever. And, going back to the system and just cooling down and thinking about it, I got back to the ramp, opened up the trailer, starting to break down some of my stuff, and Derek Aiken had come up to me, bonafide love. And, he came up to me and he's like, hey man, we had to deny one of your fish. And I'm like, what? Like, what the hell was wrong with my fish? And I didn't say it to him like that. And I was like, what happened? Like, what's wrong? And he's like, well, see if you got another picture of it or something. But the problem is your identifier. And this was the thing, is I had my KBF monthly identifier plus the Great Lakes identifier in that fishing online sleeve, and I had gotten those just before I had left. What I was doing prior is I had my identifier in a Ziploc baggie, and I just plop it on top of my dry pod so that way it was in the photo, and I'd snap the picture. And the other thing too is when I filled my identifier in, I used a red Sharpie. Don't do that, because I was having issues on my first fish with the glare of the sun coming off the plastic, and you couldn't see it. So I had to keep maneuvering my boat while I'm holding the fish on my bump board. And so that was one mistake I made. But that fish that they had denied, Derek was standing there, and I was like, well, here, let me pull up my photos. Because the way I've been doing it is just taking the photo through Tourney X and then uploading it there, and I'll take multiple photos, review them, and make sure that they're good before I upload it and throw the fish away. And after you submit that, it automatically saves that photo to my photos. Sure. So I have it as a backup. So I pulled up my photos with Derek there, And the problem is you could see the fish, you could see the lines plain as day, but my identifier was covering up that next number
Oh,
past the tail. So it was a 17 and a quarter inch
oh, I never
fish,
thought of that.
and my plastic tag, you could see the 1, but you
Mhm.
couldn't see the 8. But if you blew the photo up, you could see the 8 through the plastic. Had you not been able to make out that 8, they would have denied my fish,
Oh,
and Jay would have beat me.
that's right. If I'd have caught that fourth fish that you made me lose.
But that was the thing. He's like, Derek's like, yeah, I can see it. I can see it. All right, let's go talk to Susie because she was the one judging fish. And shout out to Susie Roloff for, judging all the fish. I think she did a great job. And,
Well, and let me go back to that. So during my first fish, the juggling of the insanity and just the mess I was dealing with because I'm a moron and I didn't think about this ahead of time. What I did remember is that um, be like slowing things down, be conscious of the picture because the first couple pictures I took looked really shiny, had a super big glare on there. And what I figured out is that there was water on my lens of my phone. So I had to wipe that off. So, and then couple that in with, proofing your picture with the sun
yeah,
right over your shoulder onto your screen. You've got your phone as bright as it'll go. And, you're trying to see the picture. And I figured out that, about the water and everything. And then I noticed that there was a huge glare actually on the tourney tag as
yeah,
well. So what I did is I made sure. Well, I took another couple pictures and then made sure that I got a good picture out of the deal. In one of the cases, I had too much sun because the bump board, because I'm still using the hog trough, it was reflecting so much light that it kind of like it flushed out a lot of the color. I mean, like the chartreuse in the hog trough just kind of glowed.
yeah,
So I had to kind of turn a little bit and get a little more shade going on, which got me a better picture. But the things you want to remember, especially when you're using these turning tags, is there's going to be a glare on a sunny day. Make sure that your code and the actual identifier itself can be clearly seen. Don't throw away that fish after you take that picture. Like try to do a live well type situation where you've got the net hanging over the side of your boat and you can still put the fish in there and work and take your time and look at stuff. Because a lot of tournaments are won and lost on that aspect. Not only that, what if you took the picture and you've got a great picture, but the fish's mouth is cracked
yeah,
and ours are supposed to be closed? So you're gonna lose like I think it's like a quarter inch or a half inch to that. I mean, so you got to be looking at everything. So you got to take your time.
yeah,
It's important.
yeah. And not only that, too, I was having issues with, when I take the picture, like the fence of the bump board was casting a shadow over the nose of the fish. So I was, maneuvering the boat around till I got a good, clear photo where you could see that nose touching the fence of the board. And, you just don't want to give the judges any excuses to DQ your fish or give you a dock and measurement or something like that. And I'm not saying anything like, judges need excuses. Trust me, they want to measure your fish exactly as the way you enter it as much as you want it to. But obviously there's some rules and you got to abide by those. And I'm glad that Derek had came up to me and mentioned the issue with my fish, and we figured it out. We were able to see that, but I was so caught up in the moment of catching that fish. I didn't even think about that. And that was my first time running two tags and those fishing online clear tags that just have a bungee that slide over your board.
Hmm.
So, I mean, that's something, Derek's like, hey, man, just like next time, make sure you got some numbers visible so that way, we don't have this issue. Had it been another judge or something, would they have accepted it? I don't know. I will say this, though, and this isn't in any way, shape, or form trying to knock Susie and Derek for denying that picture, but I uploaded that to the KBF Monthly, and they approved it. So I don't know. I don't know if Susie's judging those photos too, and she already knew ahead of time, or how that all works out. I don't know who judges the fish for Illinois. Maybe it was just they looked at it closely and saw that 8, but you really had to blow that picture up to make the 8 out through that clear plastic. Had that plastic sleeve like been undercoated in red or something, and I use a catch board, so the numbers stand out pretty prominently, just like a lined hog trough would. But yeah, I was pretty fortunate that you were able to see that. Otherwise, I would have definitely got docked, or the fish wouldn't have counted. I mean, and
Yeah, and you're going to see that across the board. I mean, even I remember from like not last year, but years before, the KBL would reject or dock you, or not say dock you, just not count. Like you say it's a 15.5, they say it's a 15.25, but the KBF will say, yeah, it's a 15.5. So you're going to get it across the board. There are real people judging these fish, so I think a lot of it's interpretation, and we
Sure.
all want our fish to be as long as they can be,
right.
in our world. And in my opinion, I've had some differences about it too.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with, and I still don't agree with, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. I mean, it's you move on. The trick is maybe you should just catch bigger fish.
Well,
And then
the
it
trick
doesn't matter.
The trick is not making those rookie mistakes,
Yeah.
But and it definitely was a rookie mistake on my part. But I, like I said, I was so caught up in the moment that, I'd put that fish in the boat, and yeah, I was ecstatic and, not really paying attention. And not only that, but I just wanted to make sure both identifiers were in the photo. So that was like my main concern. Like,
Sure.
I didn't want one to be cut off, and things like that. And dumb thing on my part is I put the Great Lakes tag on the end in the KBF one towards the fish, whereas it should have been opposite, because obviously that Great Lakes identifier was the most important of the day. But I had already had my KBF one on there, so I just slid the Great Lakes one on the back end. So that was kind of dumb on my part, but it was what it was. It worked out, but just heads up, you guys out there, just be conscious of it. Don't want to see anybody lose some fish because of a rookie mistake like that.
Yeah, just practice taking pictures. That's going to be the biggest thing. Make sure your lens is clean. Make sure there's not too much of a sun glare.
Yeah.
Make sure your fish is presented in accordance with the rules to be counted. Make sure your hands are free and clear of certain areas. Make sure that tail's touching the bump board too. Make sure the back numbers, I've never thought of that, but the back numbers aren't covered up.
Yeah.
I always kind of leave a space, so maybe naturally I've thought of it, but either way, something I'll be conscious of moving forward. Just make sure it's about the easiest for the judges to judge. And another thing too, if you're using, I know everybody's going to catch boards. Everybody is.
Yeah.
If you're still using like hog troughs or anything where you need to have some kind of a determination or some detail brought into the picture, put stickers on. Yeah. On as much as you can, so they can see where the fish is touching, because those hog troughs, when they're like that chartreuse color, that green, yellow, like they're so bright that you can't see any defining section sometimes when it's up against when the nose of the fish is up against the board. So I mean, it kind of all just blends, and that's why like I like to at the bottom of the wall, like where everything connects, I like to put a line right there with a permanent marker
Right.
to show where that line is all the time, even if I got a sticker on there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just be cautious, guys. I
Right.
completely agree. I want to put a sticker on my fence just so that way you can see. I'll put a paddle and fin sticker on there. Um, that's something I meant to do before the tournament, and I just spaced out on doing that. Um, just because on that upright, even on the catch boards, it's you know most of the time you can make it out, but still, it's not a bad idea to put that sticker there so that way you can tell that the mouth is closed and not open, and that the nose is actually touching. I mean, I haven't had any issues, but it's a good preventative thing, like you said. Just to ensure that you're taking good photos. But
I think it actually will, in my case, it'll strengthen the plastic a little more too, having something there to keep it intact.
sure, 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 sure. And Jay just put out a video in regards to the hog trough, a little hack video. Um, go go check that out on Jay's channel. You want to say something about that?
Nope.
Nope.
No, it's just a simple thing. You got the two channels that run alongside the board and the underneath it. Um, a lot of like when you get like the one I got was from Fishing Online, and they give you like this foam with this, I don't know what kind of glue is in there, but it is weird. It's like gooey and it just seems to like never be dry. But anyway, I took that stuff out. I put some square dowels in it, and I filled those channels before I did that with some silicone
Yep.
because that stuff's waterproof. And I just shoved those in there, wiped off the top, done deal. Now you've got it floats and it's definitely strong. You can still crack them, don't get me wrong, but they're way stronger with
Right.
those dowels in there than they aren't.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good way to strengthen your board. I know I watched the video, even though I'm not running a hog trough, but for the event that I ever get a question about it, um, I think it definitely strengthens that board. Plus, you talk about the stickers and all that stuff, so it definitely helps. So, no, I think that was a good little thought out, quick little video on how to strengthen up your board because those things are flimsy. They crack and break easily. I know
Yeah.
mine from last year doesn't have an upright anymore, and it's got some chips towards the end and things like that. And that was one of the main reasons I went to catch, other than the fact that you have to only use catch in KBL.
There you
But
go.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool. So with that being said, shout out to Cody Wenger for taking first, 89 3/4 inches. Don Thompson took second, and our man Brian Butterfield took third.
That's a
But
good squad there, man.
Butters pulled out a 20 right at the end. So
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for the heads up, Butters.
yeah,
Jeez.
Butters, punk.
We thought we were a team.
That's the last time I cook you breakfast.
No, no, you know what's funny? Like I caught a couple of fish off that over in that grass because I know he didn't have all his fish.
Yeah,
And I was like, Butters, I'm like, man, they're over here, dude. He's like, oh, I already got mine. Yeah. It was like one of those conversations. I just caught a 20, dude. I'm good. I'm just like, what? Like, where's the text, dude? Where's the phone call? So but yeah, it was a interesting tournament. It's something that we didn't say about that tournament too is that 30 guys fished that, or 30 anglers fished that tournament, and only 15 caught fish. That's staggering. There were some, in my opinion, a few heavy hitters amongst those 15 that normally I'm chasing, because they're consistent in what they do. And I mean, if that doesn't really put it in perspective how difficult that tournament was, um, I don't really know what will, because when half the field doesn't catch fish, uh, I mean, that's, that's obviously telling you that conditions are not optimal, and you've really got to work for every fish. Every fish is so crucial. And even though it's just five over like what, an 8 hour period, it's just not enough time sometimes. It's just not.
Yeah.
So it can get rough.
So, I'm looking at Tourney X, and something has changed within the last hour or so.
About our stuff?
Yeah, so initially I took seventh, and you took ninth,
Yeah.
and now for some reason it's showing me in eighth, and you in 10th, and Robert Moss, who's a KBL guy, somehow moved up to sixth.
That's weird. I mean, not that I guess it matters. I mean, it would really only affect the third through first.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's just kind of crazy the way, because it's been that way for days, and now all of a sudden it's different.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because I
It's
got
like somebody's fish got caught or counted last.
well, it's Robert Moss that for some reason he got moved up, and I don't know why that is.
Caught some pretty nice fish. Both looking at our phones.
Yeah, I'm just wondering
Whatever.
how the heck that
Still top
happens.
10. Don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah. I mean, granted, yeah, definitely. We were both finished top 10, so that's the most important. But yeah, 16 people caught fish out of 30, and half the field zeroed.
Yeah.
And not only that, but some of the heavy hitters, had a rough day. I know Dusty, he, had some good bites and just couldn't connect. Our friend Glenn Miller came out of the gate with a 19 and a quarter and an 18 and couldn't find another fish. I know Atif Goodman, he was like in first in the first like 2-3 hours. He caught a 19 and 3/4 and a 16 and 3/4. Didn't connect with another fish. So yeah, and I know it seemed like Cody Wenger caught a couple at the end there. Butters caught a couple at the end.
Yeah.
Don Thompson we knew had 4 fish right off the bat, or you knew that. So, but it was a great tournament overall. I'm just wondering what the whole standings changing is. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is what it is, man. Again, still top 10 finish for both of us. So congrats. Good job.
Yeah, thanks. Let me just.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great job, Jay.
Hey,
Here, virtual.
I just want to go on the record that first tournament of the year, I beat Jay. Pat on the back.
Yeah. So what?
No, it's all good, man. I know it was a frustrating day for both of us, but
Yeah.
we still, with that being said, that half the field zeroed, I think that's an accomplishment in its own, man. That we both came out on top 10, so means we don't totally blow.
Well, I still didn't get 5 fish, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just, like I said, that standard is, I'm still holding myself to that. But given the conditions,
Yeah.
I only needed 3 fish to even place,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was that bad,
Yeah.
you.
It was a tough bite, man, and a lot of people struggled. Like, it was like I said, some guys came out of the gate like, bam, 2 nice fish in the first hour, and here we are like, what are we doing wrong? And then, the rest of the day we caught up and then surpassed those guys. Nothing against those guys. It's just, the way the day went. But,
Yeah.
you
Any
know,
given day.
yeah, I think that slow presentation was key, and it definitely put some fish in our boats, so, and the crankbait. So,
Love crankbaits.
but, yeah, man, good tournament.
Yeah, it was cool.
When's your next one?
I don't know. I'm not really bound to anything. I'm definitely planning on Madison
Yeah,
with the Great Lakes.
it's
There's the Long Lake one. I don't know if I'm doing that one. I might skip it and go do something else.
I think
Um,
Madison's June, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and Long Lake is next month. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of want to. I'm getting the itch for pike right now too, so this is getting kind of difficult to stay focused on bass.
Yeah,
You know,
buddy.
because I
To
gotta start. I gotta start fly fishing for these pikes.
the
So
toothy critters.
yeah. So I mean, I got some personal goals I gotta reach this year,
Sure.
and even like tomorrow, like we were talking about, like tomorrow being Tuesday, that it's gonna be. Of course, we pre-record this, by the way.
Yeah.
It's all done with the magic of electronics. But no, I'm trying to decide, like, am I gonna go pike fishing or am I gonna like actually just go
Yeah.
for bass? I know I want to take the big rig, so I need
Right.
to go somewhere where I can like clear some weeds and not have to get into the river.
Sure. Sure.
I don't feel like we're lugging around the Liska yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna go scope out some local water this week during the week, I think, and then Saturday I might head back down south. I'm gonna leave it
Yonder.
at that. Because KBL, what they do is because our tournament was canceled, it automatically goes to an online event Saturday, Sunday, public waters only. So I know some of the gents are nice and close to power plant lakes that hold giants, so I got to go somewhere comparable. And obviously, with Easter being on Sunday, uh, not a lot of us are going to be able to fish Sunday, so Saturday's pretty
Oh,
much the
that's
day.
right. It's this weekend, huh?
Yeah, so
Wow.
Saturday's pretty much the day. So I know, I believe Jacob Ruff's joining me, and yeah, we're gonna go try to get on some fish, and then right after Easter, I leave that Wednesday
Yeah.
to hit
And
the
I'm
road.
I'm gonna find something to do on that weekend. Find somewhere to go. I may go up to Michigan. I don't know. I got my buddy Chris.
Come to Kansas. It's a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yeah. I'd rather. I don't know. Like I said, it's still up in the air, but
Yeah.
it's not Kansas.
Yeah. No. Definitely get up
Yeah.
to Michigan, man. Yeah. No.
I
I'm
was thinking about going south too, though. I just don't spend enough time down south.
sure.
I mean, in Illinois, Central Illinois.
Sure. Well, now that I think about it, and I'm talking about Kansas, so I kind of teased on the last pod, and I know we're drawn to the end here, guys, but for those that didn't go over to the Sly Dog podcast and listen to my announcement, so what I was talking about last week is I decided, basically last week that. With the whole thing with KBF trying to start their pro tour and everything I'm trying to accomplish this fishing season and things like that, I decided to join the KBF Pro Tour. So obviously I'm no professional by any means, but I definitely want to get to that point in my life. And according to Mr. Hoover, he's kind of dedicating helping guys out get to that point, and those guys that are joining the pro tour. So I'm taking you up, Mr. Hoover. I'll see you at the pro tour. And then with that being said,
That's weird. I saw you looking. I thought he was behind me or something.
no, he's not. Oh, hey, Chad.
Yeah. He's like, how'd
But
you get in the closet?
yeah, with that being said, the other big announcement is the FLW and KBF teaming up, and that tournament is on Nickajack Lake in Tennessee, the first open one, and the top 100 qualify for the big FLW event that'll be in Arkansas in August. That'll run in conjunction with the Forest Wood Cup. So I'm going to Kansas and then driving straight over to Tennessee. Todd Phillips hit me up, Nickajack Lake, homie. But yeah, so I'll be down there that whole week for the Nickajack event, and that's a 2-day tournament. I think it's Friday, Saturday. So I'm going to be gone for like a week and a half, so I'll have to do the pod from the road then. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of controversy, so to speak, or a lot of hearsay about this whole pro tour thing, and how like this year it's just like a bigger buy-in type deal. However, Chad Hoover had said that those who signed up this year would kind of be grandfathered in for next year, and after that it'll be an invite only type deal. I know there was a lot of controversy after the last one, or the first one at Santee Cooper, when Dylan Fuqua or something like that, he's from Southern Illinois, 15-year-old kid, won. And a lot of people were like, this kid's a pro, and, what the heck. But I know there's been a lot of talk about that kid, and obviously, he beat 20-some guys. So,
yeah, nobody's going to like you if you beat him.
Well, and that's just it, and, I think me doing this is just a step in the right direction that I'm trying to move. So I think it'd be stupid of me not to attempt it. Yeah, obviously it's more money, but it is what it is. So yeah, we'll see. It'll be an interesting year, and who knows? I mean, I know the Central Division is kind of hurting, just because it's so far spread out. So I mean, I believe as of right now, Kansas has only got like 28 guys signed up for just the regular trail event, and there's only one pro guy. But I know there's some guys that are down in Missouri that are signed up for the pro tour that may just not have signed up for the tournament on Tourney X yet. So as long as we make 3, then the pro event is on. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm looking forward to that, and not only that, the Nickajack Lake event. And I got to do some modifications to my kayak now because I got to keep up.
Yep.
My arms can only handle so much, I think, and not only that, but that Nickajack Lake is huge. So heads up, video might be coming. Bonafide might be getting a little trolling motor. So, but yeah, so that's what I was talking about on the last pod, guys. So yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see what happens, and it'll be an interesting year, even more interesting. So yeah. My goal is to win Rookie of the Year, Angler of the Year, and Pro Tour of the Year. So we'll see how that goes.
Those are pretty substantial.
But yeah, no, with going back to our tournament, I think that top 10 finish gave me a little confidence boost as well. Like I said, I didn't want to skunk out a 0 and,
no,
then I'm being frowned upon or questioned. But yeah, it'll be interesting, man. So yeah, I got the makeup event this weekend, and then yeah, like that Wednesday after Easter, I hit the road, Jack. So
good luck.
Thanks, brother. Gonna need it. I know Joshua Booth is one of those guys down in Missouri that I believe is fishing the pro tour. Richie talks highly of him. Yeah, buddy. I'll find him. Where there's a will, there's a way. Just hopefully I get on him earlier in the morning than later.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, you got anything else to add, my man?
No, I'm good, man. Just waiting for... Got my Stevie Wonder going on.
Yeah.
just waiting for the warmer weather, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh, this cold weather's killing me.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, we just got like, I don't know how much you got, but I got like 5 inches of snow yesterday.
Is it still there, or is it all gone now?
No, it's all pretty much gone.
Yeah, mine's all gone.
But
I know some people like a little further got like out west, Western Illinois, they got like 8 inches.
I talked to our good friend Scott Purge yesterday. He had 8 inches at his place, Crystal Lake.
That's a ton of snow, man.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, now the rivers are all gonna be nuts. So yeah, it's
great.
So.
not going to be fun.
Nope.
Well, with that being said, guys, we just got a stock of stickers back in stock. If you want some decals for your boat, fishing gear, vehicle, you name it, shoot us an email, paddle, the letter N, and fin at gmail.com, along with any questions or topics or things like that you want to talk about or hear. You can also leave us a voicemail on the Anchor podcast app that we can replay, answer your question. I know last episode we kind of went through a whole slew of them. So I know a couple guys reached out, said thanks. So you're welcome. Plastics recycling program. I know I got a healthy bag that I'm getting ready to send out to my man Eric Richards at Hammered Lures. That address is in the show notes. If for some reason you guys can't find it, please feel free to message us. I know a gentleman today just reached out and messaged me personally on Facebook asking for the info. So I sent him the address. So Eric, if you're listening, that dude should be sending you a package along with mine. And shout out to Rocktown Adventures. All their demo days will be in the show notes if you guys are in the northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, eastern Iowa, western Indiana, want to come out, demo some boats. All that info is there. Also check out their website. Shout out to our man over at Southern Lake Company. And am I missing anything? I don't think so.
That's about does it.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
Until next time, guys, tight lines and smooth paddling.